Good evening. Welcome to the workshop meeting of the Mayor and City Council of the City of College Park. We have a quorum present with council members Mackenzie, Karn, and Arnold. And so we'll get started at this time. The first item on the agenda is
presentation on electric residential rates by Power Department Director Hugh Richardson.
Good evening, Mr. Richardson. How are you?
Good evening. Well, I'm back for another presentation on our rates. This is something the Power Department started 4 years ago, and this will be our third year in a row for a recommendation. We look at the Georgia Public Service Commission survey every year to see how we compare to the other 93 power companies in Georgia. They publish this information twice a year. Typically, it's for January winter usage and for July summer usage. And anybody can look at this web page and compare. You can Google it and look up what year, what season, what kilowatt hour level, and include in your packet or in your, I call it pile of information, are two lists. That's the summer and the winter at 1,000 kilowatt hours. And you can see that it's pretty long. So instead of listing those all 94 power companies, I've developed 4 columns here at different kilowatt hour levels to compare how we are, with 1 being the highest, 94 being the lowest. So as of the winter survey ranking as of now, we are 79th at 1,000 kilowatt hours, 79th from the highest, and proposal tonight is to lower the rate 8% and go to 88 in the winter. Currently we stand at 72 in the summer, and we will move that to 88 in the summer. So here's the layout of what we've done already. In July 2023, we gave a 7.7% reduction just for summer. And then in July 2024, 6% year-round, and we're talking about tonight another 8% year-round. After that adjustment, here's the numbers. Now, this is a busy page. So let's look at 1,000 kilowatt hours at the middle. We will be 15% below average of all the 94 and 35% below average for Georgia, compared to Georgia Power. I threw in another information here, the College Park senior rate. It is not in the survey, but I put it in here just to compare where it would land on the survey, and it would be right at the bottom, although the other power companies don't include this. So this is for summer, and for winter, we would be 21% below average for all the 94 power companies and 30% below average below Georgia Power. And you can see the senior rate is 18%, is actually lower than the 94 lowest. Kind of remind you that when we do this survey, we do include all charges except for tax. It includes base charge, kilowatt hour charge, power cost adjustment, and franchise fee. So that's it. Hopefully I can start tonight's meeting with some good news.
excellent. Anyone have anything to ask Mr. Richardson? All right, hearing none. Thank you so much, Mr. Richardson, for bringing good news for our residential users. Appreciate it.
Next agenda item is presentation of City School Utility Credit Pilot presented by Hugh Richardson, Director of Power, and Dr. Sharice Campbell, Fulton County School Zone Superintendent.
You should have in your pile of information a letter from the Fulton County Schools about a utility credit initiative, which just sounds like a good idea. And I will talk about the rate, but I'm going to ask Sharice Campbell to come up and her team, her board members, and to make the presentation.
And good evening, Madam Mayor and Council. First, I'd like to invite our board members up to give some greetings before we go into our presentation.
Marvelous Monday, everyone, and happy belated Father's Day to Councilman Karn, Mayor Martley Broom, Mayor Pro Tem Mackenzie, and Councilwoman, I'm about to give you a promotion, Councilwoman Arnold. We want to just say thank you for your continued partnership here today, and we hope that we can continue our partnership here around our students and attending school. And we're most importantly, we're looking forward to being with you on July 26th with our first annual City Fest and First Day Fulton at the Convention Center. And now I'm going to invite Miss Katie Gregory.
Good evening, Mayor and Council. Thank you, Ms. Duff, for wrapping up our announcements, but I just want to say thank you for having us on the agenda. We do always appreciate our partnerships, and you've shown College Park is a great partner with us in our schools. So thank you for listening to our presentation, and we look forward to finding ways that we can work together to help all of our little bitty citizens and our big ones. Thank you.
I love that, little baby citizens. Wonderful. So good evening once again. I am Dr. Sharice Campbell, and I am the Zone 1 Superintendent for Fulton County Schools. And this evening, Dr. Stamper and I, the Zone 2 Superintendent, are excited to share about the opportunity to further deepen our partnership with the City of College Park and Fulton County Schools. Residents of City of College Park currently send approximately 1,100 students to 8 Fulton County schools. There are 4 elementary schools, Briar Hills, College Park, Asa G. Hilliard, and Heritage, 2 middle schools, Woodland Middle School and Paul D. West, and 2 high schools, Banneker High School and Tri-Cities, with the vast majority of students attending College Park Elementary, Woodland Middle School, Banneker High School, and Tri-Cities High School. As you can see from the data, all the schools struggle with students attending consistently throughout the school year. Of course, that has academic impact, as demonstrated in the percentage of students reading on grade level. Attendance is a challenge throughout the school year, but the challenge that we'd like to address with you today is student attendance during the first week of school. Many people don't know how their child's teacher is funded and how school schedules are built. In the spring, schools build their schedules based on projections. At the beginning of the school year, school budget allocations are leveled at the beginning of each school year, based on the actual enrollments by the 6th day of school. Based on that enrollment, schools either earn or lose personnel and part of their non-personnel budget. As you can imagine, this fluctuation can be quite disruptive, particularly when students eventually show up, but the school is no longer funded for their teachers. Last fall, across the schools primarily attended by College Park students, they lost a total of 12.7 teachers in that first month of school. Each teacher costs about $120,000 after salary and benefits. This is equivalent to a loss of about $1.5 million for these schools. This is why our district would like to partner with you in our Day One Ready campaign. I'm now going to turn it over to Dr. Stamper, the Zone 2 Superintendent, and Zone 2 includes Tri-Cities High School, to speak to some of the other benefits of being in school on the first day.
Good evening once again. Good to see everyone again. So we're going to talk about the benefits, and I know we know kind of the benefits of being in school, but what are the benefits of being there day one? When we say day one, that day one formula that Dr. Campbell spoke about is day 1 through 6. So just to highlight a couple things, connections with the teachers and staff. Teachers and students, they really spend time forming relationships on day 1, particularly day 1 through 6, that first week. As students come in, we talk about routines, we do kind of activities to kind of team build with the teachers and the students and the faculty at large. The next thing is immediate instruction begins. A lot of people think, particularly parents, they think, and we have to communicate to them, that learning does not take place until well into the second month of school. We start teaching on day 1. We don't have any time to lose. We get our students in, we start teaching on day 1, particularly by the time that second week, we're deep into learning. And as a side note, a lot of our schools are on block schedule. So a block schedule, which means students go to class for 90 minutes. That's double the time, so you get through double the content. So a student missing the first day really missed 2 days. If they miss the first week, that's 2 weeks. So it really accelerates that time that they're out. The second thing is establishing routines in the classroom as well as school. We do safety drills. We need to make sure our students are safe. We need to make sure they know where to go in case of emergency, fire drills, and all those good things, shelter in place, because we want to make sure our students are safe. And it really puts them behind the 8 ball if they're not there for that time. And then celebrating together. If you are there for schools like PCI, I'll just bring up because, PCI is close to my heart. We do celebrations on day 1. We have, College Park Fire Department came in. We had police officers, and we want students to have these great experiences with these public officials in their city. And those things happen on that day 1, day 2, day 3, and it really helps to form relationships with the city, with the students, with the faculty and staff. And we want the students to play a part in that celebration. And then that reduce anxiety. Can you imagine being an elementary student? You miss the first week of school. You miss the first day of school. Everyone comes in, it seems like routines have been settled and things have been already in motion. It creates anxiety. We really want our students to be there. And this is not pointing the finger at anything, saying our parents are irresponsible, things of that sort. Things happen, and people may not prioritize being there the first day. That's what we want to really communicate the importance of them being there day 1. And then finally, as Dr. Campbell talked about earlier, attendance drives funding. If our students, traditionally, I know back in the day, we used to come to school September the 5th, 6th, just right after Labor Day. That doesn't happen anymore. If they come after Labor Day, we've lost funding for those students. And it's too late to recapture those funding because funding is already allocated by the state through our formula by that time. So there's those important things for students being there the first day. And then finally, I asked us to incentivize the students that are housed in the city of College Park. And you can see it's about 885 households. There is some crossover because a household may have a student at College Park as well as Tri-Cities, or it might be a student at Banneker. So it may be multiple students in a household, but 885 households will be proposing the 15% utility credit to incentivize parents to having them there day 1, day 2, day 3, and throughout the rest of the school year. All right. Do we have any questions?
All right. Any questions? Mayor Protem?
Thank you, everyone. As a veteran certificated teacher in the state of Georgia, I definitely see the value in this, and I love even incentivizing, getting our children, helping the parents to want to get their children to school on that first day. That first day is so, you guys have said it, but I can't emphasize how important it is to be at school, even for the children socially. It's not even about for teachers, it's about, starting to set expectations and letting them know what curriculum is going to be. I was K-5. So, but also it is about the children with socializing, because to come into school that second or third day, people have already made their friends and picked their friends. And so it's just so much a better transition for the student if they can be there. So I love the idea of setting up an incentive. I think this is a great idea. And I just want to say I appreciate you guys, and I'm on board.
Councilmember Carn?
All right, thank y'all for coming out. We really appreciate it. With some of kids and parents here, we have a very transient population, primarily because of our high rental percentage community. We're one of the highest rental percentages in all of Fulton County, probably actually the highest, which gives us a whole set of challenges in terms of education and trying to stop it from being a turnstile operation. I've seen in our schools mobility rates upwards of 70%, which is pretty high. And that means within a school year, which is 180 days, and this is for the public, if I've got a classroom with 10 kids in it, and they're nowhere near that small, I'm going to lose 7 of those kids in that 180 days and replace them with 7 new ones, 70% of that classroom. That slows down the entire class in one sense. Yet the state of Georgia expects us to keep the same CRTC scores and SAT scores as traditional schools with a 15-20% mobility rate, which gives us some challenges. But I think that's why we need to look at trying some new things. And if we keep doing the same thing, we get the same results. So I think this is worth a try. And hopefully we get some good results. We're going to put a strong campaign behind it on our end. And we're hoping that you all will put a strong campaign on it behind your end to encourage parents and educate them and make them understand. If you don't want overcrowded classrooms, get your kid in on time so Fulton County can get the staffing that they need, because you can't get the staffing unless the kids show up. So I think it's really, really important.
Councilmember Arnold?
First of all, thank you. I think that anytime that we come up with different initiatives, flexibility, creative options to encourage parents and students to be at school, that is always a great thing. Education is an area that I'm very passionate about. I think I've shared that with both of our board members, so I'm looking forward to us supporting this initiative. Thank you.
Councilmember Gay?
Hey, good to see both all of y'all. I guess two of y'all know I know about school, right? But anyways, to Councilman Cohen's point, we do have a Kids Fest a couple weeks before school starts. Each one of us do a back to school program, so we could get some literature and try to further get the word out and invite y'all or someone representing y'all to come to those events, okay?
So, Mr. Denmark? Yes. From a legal perspective, I think some people would question whether or not this was something that could run afoul of the gratuities clause. Could you explain why or why not?
As I understand it, we're establishing a separate rate, and we have to apply rates uniformly, and if we do that, I think that we would be fine. And I talked to Mr. Richardson about this, and we are establishing a separate rate, and sometimes we give rates that are more favorable to one class of customers, but if we have a clearly identifiable class of customers, then we can provide a rate for those customers within that class uniformly, whether it's seniors or utility customers who use a certain number of kilowatt hours. We can accord them a certain rate, and we can apply a rate here that would apply as well. So I've looked at it, and I'm satisfied that if we apply a uniform rate to this class of customers, we can do what we're trying to do.
Okay, so for children who are enrolled in Fulton County charter schools, I don't see them on the list. And why would we leave them out of this? Why would we leave out families who enroll their children at the Main Street Academy, for instance?
Kimberly Dove, we didn't mean to leave them out, but we're only responsible for the students that attend Fulton County schools. So if the city saw fit, then you can make that recommendation and that adjustment as a city to those charter schools. But we don't control those charter schools, and those charter schools, as you know, Mayor, has their own Board of Education and their own superintendent, and we, in our Fulton County schools, can only speak on the behalf of Fulton County schools.
Understood. I think to the body, I think it's important that all kids are in school on those first days, and not, I mean, we obviously want to make sure that the kids in Fulton County schools are in those seats on day one and moving forward. I don't know why we as a body would exclude parents who choose to send their children to charter schools.
Mayor,
Councilmember Carn?
Main Street is not on the list, but we wanted to make sure we did not exclude any children, charter schools or not. The Main Street Academy it can easily be included. The percentage of the children that attend the Main Street Academy that live in the city of College Park, which would be eligible for the discount, there's enough contingency and extra in the proposal that would satisfy that, as well as Skyview. Is that still part of Fulton County? Right.
Yes.
So we want to make sure that they're covered as well. Every kid within the public school system in College Park, we want to make sure we cover them. We want to, and no, they're not on that list, but we pad our numbers enough so that we're covered. And at the same time, not every single parent and child will enroll for this as well. So now, if we want to get 100% participation, that's what we're aiming for. So, but we want to have enough in to cover everybody, which we will.
So if a parent chooses to send to, I mean, for those parents who choose to send their child to a traditional public school or a charter school, that charter school has to be within the city limits of College Park, or no? If they're sending their kid to a public school that is publicly funded, whether that is traditional public or charter, is this program open to them? Would that be the intent of the body?
I have just trying to understand a clarification on this. This program is something that Fulton County Schools is rolling out, correct?
Yes, that's
And
correct.
so you all would be monitoring, because if we're starting to talk about incentives for getting your child in school on the first day of school, somebody has to oversee that process. So my understanding, as I studied my packet for this, that this is a program that is being offered to Fulton County schools, students enrolled in Fulton County schools under your provision. The other schools, which have their own school board, would have to come to us as a body for this, because you all can you oversee
Well, this-
what gets done at the other schools that were?
This would cover Clayton County schools as well, the three that we have. And I've reached out to them as well, so they
Well, no, I understand that, but the program itself, that you all are coming to us on behalf of Fulton County schools.
Yes,
So
and one of the
the-
things that I want to just make clear is that this is a pilot, right? So
Yes.
in this pilot, in its infancy, we would see if this works and this body has the authority to expand it. You know, I thought about it when you guys were speaking, and since you have a power company, I wonder if you could take that message and put it into your power bills for, and this is just for the month of August, just to be clear. This isn't for the entire school year. This is for the month of August. We have a big campaign to increase attendance for our students. And what Ms. Gregory and I learned just a couple of weeks ago, we had a specialist to come to talk to us specifically about attendance and students' data. And we learned, shockingly, that when a student misses 6 days, their learning loss doubles. 6 days. And it does not have to be continuous. It could be any 6 days, as Dr. Stamper mentioned.
Well, I think to that point, it would seem that as a body, we would want to encourage any school-age child within the city limits of College Park to show up on the first day and keep on showing up to make sure that they are there for that count. I don't know, I understand that, and I appreciate the fact that Fulton County Schools has started this conversation, and we're hopefully going to create this partnership. But if we want, we know that our kids are learning in various manners at various places. So I don't know why we wouldn't want to encourage our families either through, I mean, we could talk about it on this, I think perhaps on a staff level, if parents could get some kind of certification from their school that their child has been there, or whatever the case may be. But
Well,
why wouldn't we open it up
I hear
to
what the
all
mayor's
parents?
saying.
I'm still talking though.
Okay.
And so I just think this is an opportunity that we should open up to our entire population. And I think as Councilmember Carn and Mayor Pro Tem.
Okay.
Well, the uniformity of it for this pilot, we want to be consistent. The plan is it's going to be for all College Park children and parents who are enrolled in public schools and live in College Park. And we start with our public school system, Fulton County, Clayton County Public Schools. The discount will be credited to the September bill, as obviously we need to verify that the children are in school the first week in August. And we only, upon verification from Fulton and Clayton, that the student was registered and that they were there for attendance, then they receive the credit on their September bill. So that's the plan for this pilot. I think it covers fair, and we'll see, I hope we can see how many parents and children that we get are really interested in this and bring attention to this loss of teachers here in our community.
Again, I love the program, and of course, I would love to see every single school that's in College Park, whether it be Clayton County or Fulton County, every family to be able to take advantage of this wonderful incentive. I think what I'm clarifying is you all came to us with a Fulton County school, public school program, which you all will, Fulton County schools will be working to keep up with each of those schools in our district that have all of the students come on the first day, so we will know who to credit. So I wanted to just stay focused on what you all are doing. I think as a governing body, it's another conversation for us to have in terms of expanding this to every school in College Park, because then we will have to invoke our own city staff or someone else to, to meet with the different principals. So that's where I love what you all are doing. I think this would be a great pilot for all of us, but I do believe in terms of my governing body that we will have to find a staff person that is going to take on this responsibility. And that's budgetary, that's a budget issue, and that is an issue for how we can move this program into all the schools. So when I look at this program tonight, I am specifically looking at what you all are bringing to us for the Fulton County Schools, and I appreciate you. Thank you so much.
To Councilmember Carn's point, charter schools are public schools, so I just want to make sure that is clear. And secondly, to Mayor Pro Tem's point, I think we're going to have administrative work on the back end to have the classification for these residential customers anyway. We are going to have to do something on the staff end. But I think that we should probably continue this conversation, because if there's, Ms. Miller, I wonder if there's an opportunity to just see what staff comes up with in July, and when we return, to see if there's an opportunity to expand it. If it doesn't work out this year, that's fine, and I understand that. But I think if the goal is to get children into school on the first day, and that we should spread that as far as we can. That just seems to. I understand it's a pilot, and I understand that Fulton County has started this partnership. Board Member Gregory.
Thank you. As you stated, like I said, obviously coming on behalf of Fulton, and we have access to Fulton's data, so we are ready to be able to provide that to reconcile those pieces. Mm-hmm. We also have an office that for our director of charter schools. So in spirit of partnership, because like you said, we want all kids in all spaces to be educated. We're here to create good citizens, both little and big. But we would be more than happy to help those connection points and smooth that over should you be interested. Like you said, this is at the will of your board and your council of what you would see fit with your dollars and rate space. But we're more than happy to help make those connections with those appropriate charter school spaces to help facilitate that information and that data exchange. But that is not data we would have access to.
Understood. But Ms. Cooper Gatewood could be the bridge to that.
She's a wonderful liaison.
Absolutely, she sure is.
So the idea is to include charter schools as well. I have reached out to Clayton County. They are interested in as well as participating in monitoring and making sure that their students are counted if they qualify as well. So we're going to cover as far and wide as possible with this. But I think the time is now for this. We talk about making a difference and truly partnering intergovernmentally with our school system. Well, here it is. I think it's a good pilot to see how we do and see if we can move the needle some, and I believe that we can if we put the combined effort together. So I'm excited about it, and I think it's something worthwhile to move on, and I don't want us to wait. We need run-up time to make sure we get that campaign going so that these young people and parents know that we're reaching out and we want to bring something to their attention that's going to help benefit their families and their children. So.
Any other questions or comments? All right. Thank you so much. Appreciate your time.
Thank you all. Have a good one.
Next agenda item, FY 2024 audit report presentation presented by Albert Butler and David Moore with Banks Finley White and Company.
Good evening, Mayor, council members, Ms. Miller, Mr. Denmark. Tonight I'm going to present over the results of the financial statement audit for the year.
Mr. Butler?
Yes, ma'am.
Where is the audit? You said that we would have it today.
Yes, ma'am. The audit is still in draft form, ma'am.
When do we expect that it will be complete, like in a book, for us to review?
Ideally, final completion requires one additional piece of documentation from your actuarial reports that we're going to need. I want to present over that conversation in this presentation, but we can't sign off on the audit until we get that final piece of documentation from the actuary.
Do you have any sense of when that will occur?
I do not. Last I heard, it was with the contract related for the actuary to do the work had expired. So the city's in a process of trying to renegotiate that contract to get the actuary back on to do the work that's needed for that report.
So the report itself is complete.
Yeah, so we are pencils down at this point.
Okay.
For us, all the audit work has been done, and we're in a position to go ahead and issue unmodified opinions for the city, but we do need to get that final reporting from the actuary.
Right.
Oh, excuse me, you done?
No, I'm not done.
Oh, you about to start?
I'm about to start. Yes.
Okay, get started.
Yes.
I thought you were leaving.
No. We got your participant material is pretty lengthy, somewhere around 60 some odd pages. But my notes today are not going to be as lengthy. A lot of that is a lot of appendix information for your benefit and for your reading. But to begin, I do want to go ahead and stress that a part of our auditing standards requires us to be independent in sight and independent in all of the documentation that's related to the city's affairs. So for us, our job truly is to report the news and what we see and how we see it, and then go through a process of making sure that the final reporting is clear and concise. So I did want to include as part of our material that the AICPA, who was our governing body, requires us to have a sets out a set of standards for that level of independence for any type of a test type work that we might do. And I do want to affirm tonight that my firm and everyone on my staff are completely independent of the city, and nothing that we have done has come into conflict of that independence. So tonight I do have a couple of slides, like I mentioned, that I do want to go ahead and share with the city. Overall discussion outline for purposes, I included executive summary, audit strategy, and some significant areas of emphasis that I want to bring to your attention, along with some key findings and our required communications that we do have for the audit itself. For executive summary purposes, our scope for the audit for this year was to do the financial statement audit, to do the single audit, and assist with the preparation of the ACFR, the Annual Comprehensive Financial Report. We do have listed out what management responsibilities are, and those responsibilities require that the management of the city maintains a system of internal control in place and reasonable and reliable data. We call this the completeness and the accuracy and transparency of the data. Along that with our responsibility to report on that data and to assess everything from a risk-based approach, and to look at the city from a control base to come to a conclusion on how we can go about doing the testing for the audit. And like I mentioned before, we are in position to go ahead and issue, once we get those final numbers from the actual report, unmodified opinions for the single audit and for the financial statement audit. Our strategy for this year, as you can see, I'll try to put on here a quick timeline. We did start late October, and then part of that starting in late October, we went through a process of learning the city, identifying where the risks actually were, and as we started doing the work, the more rocks we picked up, the more things we started to find. And I think that's actually a good process. It gave us the opportunity to step back and look at things holistically, while at the same time looking at things on a very detailed level to bring things to your attention that warrant the attention of the council and warrant attention of the city manager. So a few audit areas of emphasis that we wanted to walk through. Those audit areas of emphasis included the risk of management override of controls, financial statement close process, your IT process, your cash and how it's actually collected and reported, in your investment portfolio, your property, plant, and equipment, your revenue and receivables, along with also your debt, your bond issuance, your pension, and as I mentioned, that other post-employee benefits information, along with your fund balance, your grants management and grant compliance, and lastly, the schedule of expenditure of federal rewards, which is called the CFA. For the committee's benefit, I wanted to lay out an overall timeline for everything that we went through as for the audit. And again, like I mentioned before, we have to do a risk-based audit. And that risk-based gives us a level of doing a risk assessment from top to bottom. And that risk assessment led us to our overall audit strategy along with the timeline. So we go through actual planning phase, an interim phase, testing phase, and a reporting phase. And like I mentioned before, we're in that final reporting phase right now. But as you can see along the timeline, there were several emphases of information that was not available or could not be found or requested, and it just wasn't turned in timely, which ran into several roadblocks along the way. However, though, we were able to still audit around some of those issues and still get to a position where we can actually issue unmodified opinions. The next slide is notable audit areas. Now, it's pretty wordy on this slide, but what I wanted to do was bring to the attention of the council some points that really kind of lays into, related back to that timeline as well, that turn into actual findings. The biggest one that I put for number one is the financial statement close process. This is a very critical process for any organization from top to bottom. And what I call it is it's the catch-all. It is the one that the review process really takes place to actually close the books and review all the information that's being put into closing those books. The other two areas are called the procure to pay and the order to cash process. These two processes are critical for how you actually go through the procurement process and then how you actually bill and recognize revenue for different aspects for the city, be it your tax revenues or be it your grant management process. All this rolls into these processes. The second point on here is related to some adjustments that had to be recorded post us receiving the actual trial balance for the city. In total, we came up with a $4.9 million post-trial balance that had to be recorded for the city. And then we came up with another $3 million of audit adjustments that had to be recorded to ensure the final numbers were reasonable and accurate. And as I mentioned before, the number 3 point on here is related to your other post-employee benefits liability. That comes from that actuarial report that's still pending. I laid in here several comments for you to read through, and these comments are kind of indicative of the issues that I laid out in the timeline as well. Those comments are around the city's actual financial statement close process, like mentioned before. Also, lack of timely reviews, which is very, very critical, a part of the entire process. And then, of course, the turnover in key positions. That's always an issue when you run into when individuals are turnover and things are not documented and you don't have processes in place. They take information along with it when they leave. So as we went through the audit process, trying to find that information became very, very complicated. So what we did was we had to go through several lists to actually get it, but all in all, the information was finally provided. The next slide I prepared is the listing of the actual findings themselves, and these are high-level, just title-based for the findings. In total, we had 8 findings, 5 of which related to the financial statement audit, and 3 of which are related to your single audit. Again, these findings are labeled as either material weakness or they're labeled as significant deficiency. A material weakness, by definition, is an item that has the suspectability of causing a material problem if it's not captured on a timely basis. And a significant deficiency, by definition, is an item that, although that might not be material, it is something that I need to bring to your attention based on my judgment. And on the next slide, I do lay out those definitions for your benefit. As I go into the next slide, I lay out the actual details for the findings. I tried really, really hard to make sure that when I wrote up the findings, I wrote them in a more theme type base. I did not want to go through just pointing out every instance of a problem, but I really wanted to write it in a way that gave us a process to go from start to finish to be able to get from where we are today to where we can be in the future to clear the finding itself. So each of these findings that are written up in a way that is an overall observation, or overall that came to the support that we was able to find along the way. On the next slide, I wanted to lay out some of the financial statement close issues that I mentioned before. So you will notice that I try to point out that there are certain reconciliations and roll forwards that were not taking place in a timely manner. The key word here is timely. And I want to make sure I put emphasis on the word timely because as you go through the process, just because it got done later in the day, if it wasn't done timely, it is not done in a way that it gives the city manager or the council or you, mayor, an opportunity to identify if there is an issue that needs to have emphasis to be applied to it. So timely completion of the close process, timely completion of the order to cash process and the procure to pay process is critical to proper controls and to be put in place for clean and concise data. On the next slide, I did provide a finding related to document retention. As we went through the audit, like I mentioned before, there were several pieces of information that could not be found in a timely manner. And because it could not be found timely, it did make the audit go on a whole lot longer to get comfort on a particular area that might have been tested. So having a solid document retention policy that is adhered to on a consistent basis is really, really critical to make sure that that is not just written, but also administered and followed along the way. The next finding is related to segregation of duties. When you have a good bit of turnover, you start having individual with incompatible duties. I call it anyone who has the authority for authorization, custody, or reporting of any type of transaction. That's when you have an opportunity for misaggregation of duties. And then you have type of a role replacement that takes place where you have individuals taking on more duties that they really shouldn't be taking on. So in our walkthrough process and having just turnover of individuals, it's just been identified that some individuals might have had incompatible duties along the way, and that's not just in manual duties, it also can be in system duties where people just have to just take on ownership of something because there's no one else to take it on. So that always comes up as an issue of a potential problem when you have those type of duties that might come overlapping on each other. And then the last finding, as I mentioned before, is related to the high turnover of key personnel. When key personnel turnover at a high level, that creates an extra amount of risk involved because, again, high-level individuals have a lot of high-level information. They have a lot of detailed information. They know where a lot of things are and where things can be found. So when you lose those people and it's not written down what they were doing, it makes it very, very complicated for the next person to come into chair to be able to pick it up so they can actually follow through and get their job duties done on a timely basis. The next item I wanted to bring was related around IT. As a part of our walkthroughs, anytime we look at controls related to IT, it's surrounding around control access for access for data and for change management controls. These controls are always critical to make sure no one has incompatible duties inside the system, as well as having incompatible duties in person. So we want to make sure those access controls are always in place. We want to make sure that those system controls and those program change controls are also in place. And like I said, doing our walkthrough of understanding how the systems are being used and how individuals are being trained to use the system is always an area that we try to put a highlight on to make sure individuals can be properly trained and don't have incompatible access within inside the system. So those were all of the financial statement audit findings. The next set of findings are related to the single audit. Again, the single audit surrounds all of your federal funding. We do a detailed audit of compliance related to your federal funding by obtaining all the grant awards that you guys have. And then through those grant awards, we use the uniform guidance to go through an audit of those grants to make sure that everything inside those grants are being adhered to. A part of that is the grants management process and being able to not only just document the grant, but have maintenance of the grant and also being able to know everything inside the grant to ensure compliance along the way. We did have to identify instances of having issues around the grant management process, along with the actual schedule of expenditures and federal awards, actual preparation of that. We did have to do a lot of heavy lifting to try to pull that document together to make sure that it was complete as well, too. Our next finding around the single audit was, again, about document retention. It's similar to the same finding related to the financial statement audit. They kind of go hand in hand with each other. If you're going to get one in financial statement audit, you're probably going to get one in the actual single audit itself as well, too. And the last one is around the late submission of the actual audit for Federal Clearinghouse. One of the final pieces that we have to do is we have to upload, well, the city has to upload the final ACFA report to the federal clearinghouse. Once it's uploaded, then I will go in and certify that I did complete the audit and everything is sound. So that is a finding until it's actually complete and done. And that's something that we're still working to get done. The next several slides are related to our required communications as a part of the actual audit itself. Once we get wrapped up toward the end of the audit, there are certain required communications that I have to make to those charged with governance. As the governing body, you are charged with governance of the city of College Park, and so I'm going to present those required communications to you guys now. As part of our audit, we are responsible for the identified areas inside of our engagement letter. Inside that engagement letter, we were to complete the audit for fiscal 2024. We didn't identify any events or conditions that would lead us to believe that there is any doubt in the city's ability to continue. We did not identify any issues or identify any areas where we feel like there are certain estimates inside the city that could not be completed on the, as we went through the audit. We have no unrecorded misstatements. All identified audit adjustments was presented to the city finance director, and they did record all of the entries that we presented over to them with no issue. There were no corrected misstatements that we need to bring to your attention outside the ones that are included inside your petition material. We did highlight several significant. Well, we did have to highlight two significant deficiencies and several material weaknesses that is included inside your petition material as well. We are not aware of any additional communications that the city might have made with any outside parties as related to the audit that were cause us to believe that the audit was not going to be complete timely. We are not aware of any identified items that would cause us to believe that there's any outside judgments that might have been made by the city from our audit. We have included inside of your participant material the draft management letter. That letter is designed to go through all the management responsibilities and sign off. That will be signed off by the finance director and presented over to us on the last day of the audit. There have been no changes within the terms of our scope of work. And outside of what's been presented already, there has been no additional significant findings to bring to your attention. As I mentioned before, the only outstanding item is remaining truly is that actuarial report that's needed for the actual OPEB adjustment for the calculation. So with that, there are several appendix items that I did prepare for you for your reading. Inside that, you're going to find the actual management rep letter draft, along with the drafted up audit opinions as well too. And then some material for diversity and our overall commitment for the actual city itself. So with that, that concludes my prepared material. I do want to open up for questions for all of you so we can talk through.
All right, Mayor Pro Tem.
Firstly, I want to thank you for this, for the work that your company has done. It's been, I think this is one of the reasons that we wanted to bring on another company so we could see, sometimes to have another set of eyes. I am extremely concerned about the 8 findings, looking at these material weaknesses that we've had, I think it's 6 material weaknesses and the significant deficiencies. That's very concerning, and I'm hoping that our city will move forward with taking those recommendations that your firm has made to us in this audit, and in addition to that, that we will find a way to not go through 6 city managers in 3 years and 3 finance directors in 1 year. We've had 3 finance directors in 12 months and multiple human resource directors. And so I think that does lead to issues, and I would love to see the city begin to have it where everything is documented. Our city manager, I'd love for us to have a system so that regardless of who works here, how long they stay, everything is documented. So when we do have turnover, we still have our documents turned in. So I do thank you for the work that you've done. We're looking forward to getting this completely completed. And I'm glad that we haven't gone under, but I am still concerned about the future, and it's my hope that we will execute and implement all of the recommendations that have been made. So thank you very much.
Councilmember Carn?
All right, we appreciate you coming. Jackson. A couple of things. We used to ship our records over to Iron Mountain, which a lot of the cities still use. It was, same compliant facility that just about everybody used. I don't know if we're still doing that or if that's arcane nowadays or.
Yes, we are still using a firm to store those records.
Well, that's good to know. Jackson, it was my understanding that this actual audit was pretty much pencils down at the end of May. Is that correct?
Yes, that's correct as of the June 2nd meeting.
Okay.
Pencils were to be down at that point.
All right. So essentially, we're waiting on this actuary report, and so we want to get that on in. Obviously, we definitely better get it in before July, so we'll have that to put a bow on this thing. But we're done, and we, like the mayor said, we expect a hard copy here in the next few days here. City manager, I would like. I think if we come back a few meetings from now, I don't know, maybe August or 1st in September, with a plan to resolve the material issues, a plan from our end. The big ones that stood out to me that I looked at, I want that plan to include, the receivables issue, as well as the close process. The other big one that I've seen before, that I haven't seen before, the post-employment benefits actuary report. That I would imagine that would be very important to some of our retirees in terms of and document retention, document organization and retention. I think that's probably one of the biggest deals up there. I know we got a lot of new folks up there. Some of these issues were not in previous audits. And this is expressly why for the last 3 years I have insisted that we bring in a new auditing firm, because when you bring in a new firm or a new set of eyes, as they call them, you're going to find deficiencies. The same audit process and the same outfit for 16 years, and relatively not a lot of problems at all. I thought it was suspect. That's why I insisted on doing it for the past 3 years. The votes weren't up here previously, but they are up here now. And we're looking because we're looking for transparency. We're looking for accuracy. So city manager, I'd like us to try to get a report at some point later on down the line here as soon as possible about how we're gonna make sure we're tightening things up so that we don't have those issues. And Jackson, I know you're new here, and you told me coming in the door that, your eyes were open, so to speak. So we're going to keep working towards it. In Fulton County, where I was county commissioner, our big thing was Gatsby. That was our big issue, and it was uniform standards was our challenge as well. So here's some of the same stuff. So let's work on it.
Councilmember Arnold?
Thank you. Thank you for the report and the information. I'm not going to repeat what my colleagues have said about the concerns, but I do want to add that I think that I've heard the city manager has already started looking at things that I've mentioned. I mentioned over the past year about standard operating procedures, and so having those items documented basically is what you're saying, that we're missing those operating procedures, and so I'm looking forward to us standing up some projects and things of that nature so that we can get these things documented. So thank you very much.
Councilmember Gay?
Mr. Banks, I'm too not gonna repeat what has already been said, but let me publicly express my appreciation for your firm taking on this assignment. I know it was more than just to be paid, but you took the assignment knowing well that there were some material issues. So to be able to mitigate that and still have a draft, I think is to the testament of your all's skill set. I'm not gonna say that I'm overly concerned. I think we are physically healthy. As I've said in my letter, the city is being moved forward. So I'm not gonna sit up here and badger my own operation, because I think we do an amazing job. Staff is happy. They all wanna never leave. The water is very clear. The streets stay clean. Crime is low. I'm excited. So continue the good work. Mr. Jackson called for the CAFRA when they ready. Winston, give them your numbers on claims. Ed Waller giving y'all the number for the actuary people. I think we good, man.
Yeah.
All right.
And just to echo that, Council, I will say that having the transparency of having additional eyes and having somebody take a hard look at it does bring about an air of unison that we want to move forward. You know, all this stuff I'm talking about is 2024. We're moving forward through the process. I mentioned in our last council meeting by having Mr. Jackson and staff and us working together, working with Ms. Miller, and being able to really dig in deep and let everybody take ownership and say, hey, yeah, we got a problem. Let's do something about it, is a testament to where the city is trying to go and where we're going to go with these financials. So I appreciate it, and I really, really do. I'm very encouraged to be able to work with this team.
Mr. Butler, I disagree with my colleagues. I don't think it is acceptable that we do not have an audit right now, today. You told us 2 weeks ago we would have it, that we would have it in our hands. And at this point, we still are not eligible to receive state funding as a result. We received a letter from your team as an update as of May 20th about your outstanding items. The OPEB thing was not on there. Why is that?
Well, during our conversation, if you look at our letter that was on May the 2nd, if I'm not mistaken, OPEB item was on there. And as we were going through the audit process, we're trying to lift boats while we're going. Through my review, I do a very detailed, hard review of what my staff is actually doing to make sure we're clean and concise in the work that we do. And when I got to this section, I'm like, where's our OPEB report? We need an actual report. It still had not been ordered. So that's when the alarm was starting to be rung about, hey, we need to get this report. We need to get this report. And this is where we are. Now, I will tell you this very factually, Mayor, as we go through the process of moving forward, my job is to make sure that your ACFR is as pristine as possible. I do not want to sit back and just push something through and just run it through and give the council something that's not going to be representational of the city of College Park. I care about it way, way too much to do that. So if it does take me another day, another week or so to try to make sure this is right, the last thing I want to do is upload something to the Federal Clearinghouse and there'd be a problem. The second thing I would hate to do is to send something out to the Georgia Department of Audits and there's a problem. And then they'll look for one small little I not being dotted, or one small little T not crossed, and it'd be a bigger problem than what it needs to be. So my job is to make sure that does not happen. And that's what I'm here for.
And I appreciate that that is your job. I also do not accept that babies have been born in the time that you've had this contract, that we've had an entire NBA season, that I was thinking about wearing layers in October.
I'm not following your reference, Mayor.
This has taken over 9 months, and yes. I do not accept that you can't do a thorough job while also being timely. My concern is absolutely your concern in terms of this audit being done in a thorough, complete, absolutely pristine manner. I do not accept that it takes this long to do it. And we have seen with the letters from your firm that there are constantly things that are coming up that weren't in the letters before. And so I don't think it's all on us. And that's what I've heard that's what I've seen in this presentation. That's the impression that I'm getting. And I don't accept that it takes 9 months to get this done. We need to have this audit in our hands. When can we expect it, Mr. Butler?
We can expect it once we have the final actuarial report with the OPEB number, which is documented in the presentation that was presented. And then further, once the final review of the final report is done, you will have the final document.
So at this time, you cannot tell us when you will have a final audit to
I can't
us.
tell you what's going to happen with your actuary. I can't do that.
Thank you, sir.
I have a comment.
Councilmember Gay?
Our finance director out there, Bradley, she left under our watch, not the new people's watch, right? And she, in my opinion, we interacted with her almost weekly. So, same with Jenkins and Marlin. Now, it wouldn't have hurt Jenkins and Marlin to share some of their work papers or a phone call. Oh, by the way, that so that relationship could have existed. And at the same time, when people leave, you lose intellectual properties. I can't say it the way he said it, but here again, I don't think the state is. The more you talk about it publicly, state, but I don't think the state is overly concerned that the city of College Park isn't gonna have their, and I don't know of any state funds that are being held as a result of this audit, which should probably be done as soon as we get the actuary and the legal report. I don't know that any state audits, any state money is being, I talked to Ed Wall, there's nothing from the bonding perspective that's in danger whatsoever.
It's the road funding.
So here, so for them to tell you point blank, as soon as they get what they need, they gonna get a cap. And also the man is saying that's not how he do business. He gets it done when it's done. And so that's enough blame to go around from me to all of y'all. It's enough blame to go around. So take responsibility, appreciate what they've done for us. Let's work collectively to support them and support ourselves like I've done. And let's get the project done, rather than to publicly bash a client who's working on. That's just like telling your surgeon, I don't think you're doing this for me. He got your body and your life in his hands. That's not how this works. We have to support one another publicly. I think he's been extremely factual. I know. That's just how I feel about it. Councilman Cohen makes a good point. We took some risk to get rid of the auditor. We didn't expect it to be a smooth ride. We didn't. It's easy for Doug Moses to come out here and do an audit. He done did it for 12 years. It's not hard. They've only done it for 1 year with hardly any support, and they still getting it done. And I think they represent their degrees, their CPAs foremost before they represent College Park. I don't even know the people. I just seen them across the street for all these years and wonder how come this black city wasn't giving that black CPA some love. That's what this is about. So again, I publicly want to thank y'all, okay?
I appreciate that, Councilman Gay.
Councilmember Carn?
City Manager Jackson, let's double our efforts to make sure that we procure this actuarial, hopefully this week. Let's get it on in here so we can get the auditor what they need to close us out.
Anything else? All right, that's the conclusion of the workshop. And
Thank
we will
you
see
very
everybody
much.
back.
Thank you, guys. I really appreciate it.
Thank you. We will see everybody back at 7:30.